The profession of architecture may not be a noble profession like medicine, but it is a socially responsible profession. That's why everybody should know what is architecture. In fact, मैं तो ये बोलता हूँ कि स्कूल के पढ़ाई में ही होना चाहिए. जैसे आपने बायोलॉजी पढ़ाया, उसी तरीके से आपको एस्थेटिक्स करके एक सब्जेक्ट इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहिए प्राइमरी स्कूल लेवल में. एस्थेटिक्स होता क्या है, जैसे ये यहाँ पे आपने क्यों रखा, इसका महत्व क्या है. यहाँ पे गर्ल्स हॉस्टल बिल्डिंग इन कॉलेज ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग पुणे. ओके, नाउ वहाँ पे अगर आपने देखा तो उस बिल्डिंग में हमने एक ही चीज़ बदलाव किया बाकी के हॉस्टल बिल्डिंग से. पहला प्रोजेक्ट जो था हमको सिर्फ लक के वजह से मिला था. CCBA doesn't get its projects either from website or from marketing. We don't have any marketing team, nor we have any advertisement. We had no connection with Mr. Ajim Premji. He was in IT. He heard about our work. He came and visited us in India House in Pune. And then he said, like, I want to have you design as our university.
Hello friends, welcome to the new episode of Unbeaten Business Story. Before starting, I want to ask you a question. तो मेरा क्वेश्चन ऐसा है, मैं आपको कुछ आइकॉनिक बिल्डिंग्स के नाम बताऊंगा और वो बिल्डिंग्स में कॉमन पॉइंट क्या है वो आपको मुझे बताना है. फर्स्ट बिल्डिंग है IIM रायपुर. सेकेंड गर्ल्स हॉस्टल COEP जो पुणे में लोग रहते हैं उनको पता है. यूनाइटेड नेशंस भूटान में जो ऑफिस है यूनाइटेड नेशंस का वो बिल्डिंग. हम लोग पुणे से मुंबई जाते हैं, एक्सप्रेस हाईवे लगते ही लेफ्ट साइड में लोड़ा बेलमोंडो करके एक स्कीम है. वो आइकॉनिक बिल्डिंग्स है, काफी ब्यूटीफुल बिल्डिंग्स है. उसके बाद में आजिम प्रेमजी यूनिवर्सिटी जो बेंगलुरु में है, IIM कोलकाता, आई कैन गो ऑन एंड ऑन. तो ये बिल्डिंग्स में कॉमन पॉइंट ये है कि ये सभी बिल्डिंग्स आइकॉनिक है और ये बिल्डिंग्स का जो डिजाइन है, इसका जो आर्किटेक्चर है, ये CCBA डिजाइंस जो इंडिया की लीडिंग आर्किटेक्चर फर्म है, उन्होंने ये डिजाइन किया है. और ये फर्म को इतना ये लेवल तक लेके आए हैं रामप्रसाद अक्कीसेट्टी सर, हु इज को-फाउंडर एंड मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर ऑफ CCBA डिजाइंस. हमें एक पॉडकास्ट करना था आर्किटेक्चर एज अ प्रोफेशन. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि एक सोसाइटी में, एक कंट्री के डेवलपमेंट में आर्किटेक्चर का एक बहुत बड़ा रोल है, लेकिन आई थिंक उन्हें ये प्रोफेशन को इतना लाइमलाइट अभी तक मिला नहीं है. लेकिन हमारे पॉडकास्ट में हमने ये किया है कि आर्किटेक्चर के ऊपर ही हम लोग एक पॉडकास्ट करेंगे. हम लोग रिसर्च कर रहे थे कि किसे बुलाया जाए. द ओनली नेम विच वी गॉट की इज द राइट पर्सन एंड वी हैव इनवाइटेड हिम to the podcast. Sir, welcome to the Unbeaten Business Story.
Thank you very much. Namaste.
सबसे पहले जो हमें क्यूरियोसिटी है, मतलब आपने जो इतने प्रोजेक्ट्स किए हैं, मतलब इट इज अनबिलीवेबल कि एक फर्म ये कर सकती है. उसके ऊपर तो हम लोग आएंगे, लेकिन विल स्टार्ट विथ योर जर्नी, आपकी पर्सनल जर्नी और CCBA की जर्नी. तो उसके बारे में हमें बताइए.
Okay. So CCBA came into existence 30 years back in 1995, and before that actually I came to Pune in 1991 to study MBBS at Armed Forces Medical College, and I met my mentor and the founder of CCBA, Professor Christopher Benninger, in 1993. And I shifted from medical education to the profession of creativity, of architecture and art and design. So that is in short. And in 1995, we both came together and we formed this company, in short. And since then we have been doing very exclusive projects, and one of the key factors of the company is that, like, we have always believed in doing good projects than more number of projects. And Professor Benninger is one of the finest architects of this particular century, I would say. Being educated at Harvard and MIT, he came to India back in the 70s, 1970s, to found a school of planning in Ahmedabad, Sept University. And then he stayed back over here. And then he came to Pune in 76 to start CDSA, which was primarily a policy institute and then a planning institute, and he was a teacher. It was only after meeting me he decided that why don't we start a company where we could design buildings and have clients. And then so we started in 1995, and I was a bacha back then. I was barely 22, and I did not know anything about architecture, but I was very enthusiastic because I like creative fields. And so he was 50 and I was 22, and we partnered and we started the company. And we never knew that like we will grow so successful. But of course, as you know, success is just like relative term. But we have grown in a very organic manner, as well as in a manner that when I look back the 30 years journey, I feel that like our investments were very good.
Uh, the point you mentioned, you had a background of medical education, and then ultimately you chose this profession of
Architecture.
architecture. My case is also similar.
Uh-huh.
I have completed BE Mechanical,
Huh.
and after completing this degree, I didn't do any job or any business in that field. I
Okay.
came into personal finance. So I know the pain, like having education in one field and profession is altogether different.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
and at that point, I think it was not so easy.
Correct.
So कहीं पे ऐसा हुआ फैमिली से कि भाई क्या कर रहा है ये एजुकेशन ये कर रहा है, तो ऐसा कुछ हुआ? और आपको ऐसा क्यों लगा कि ये जो आपने एजुकेशन लिया है एज कम्पेयर टू दैट ये फील्ड में कुछ अच्छा, अल्टीमेटली करियर एंड ग्रोथ वो तो होता ही एट दैट एज.
Yeah, that's true. But you see, I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to serve in the Indian Army. And if I had continued doing that, I would have been a brigadier and a doctor in the Indian Army even now. But you see, sometimes you have to listen to your calling. आपकी अंतरात्मा को आपको सुनना पड़ता है. And I had a calling that like medical field was not meant for me.
Okay.
I realized that like I was mentally a person who likes to be in a creative field.
Okay.
And this is what always it has been in my childhood. But जब हम लोग स्कूल में कॉलेजेस में थे उस जमाने में या तो आप इंजीनियर बनो, नहीं तो आप डॉक्टर बनो या लॉयर बनो, यही होते थे.
अभी भी वैसा ही.
हाँ, इनफैक्ट मैंने कभी आर्किटेक्चर का नाम भी नहीं सुना था उस समय में. आई मीन वो एक ट्रेंड होता था. आप अगर कुछ कमाना चाहते हो तो खाली डॉक्टर या इंजीनियर, उसके अलावा और कुछ नहीं होता था. एंड क्रिएटिव फील्ड्स लाइक आर्ट, डिजाइन, आर्किटेक्चर, फिर आप करोगे क्या, खाओगे क्या, ऐसे बोलते थे. सो ऑब्वियसली यू नो लाइक जब आप 18-19 साल के उम्र के लड़के हो तो आप सोचोगे कि भाई जिंदगी में ऐसे कौन सा फील्ड लेना जिससे आप आपकी जिंदगी चला सकते हो. So I was also a victim of that thought process, let's call it. Of course, अभी तो बहुत सारा education में opportunities हैं, और these kind of belief system has been broken down now. Now I think the kids have a lot more freedom to choose, and the education system has also become so much better. You can mix and match subjects and all that stuff. But I think meeting Professor Christopher Benninger was a game changer for me. I could drop out of medical school and then I could partner with him. And I was still studying. I took admission in Ferguson College. I finished my bachelor's in psychology. Then I finished my master's in anthropology. And then I came into architecture. So I always say that like I'm very well educated, even though if it was patchy, I say that I studied the human body, I studied the human mind, I studied the human societies. Now I'm studying the human spaces. So everything related to human I'm studying. And I would say that I still haven't graduated. Like lifelong, you can be a student and you should be a student. And study is like very relative, right?
I think something's happened for a good reason. So
Yeah,
जो
it's
भी होता
destiny.
है अच्छे के लिए होता है.
Destiny. Sometimes it's a destiny.
Yes, and
Yeah.
looking back, no regrets.
And no regrets. And fortunately, to answer the question that you asked, were my parents like, annoyed at my decision? No. I think I had extremely supportive family environment. My parents always believed that like, लड़का कुछ भी करके जी लेगा, that kind of attitude that they had. And so they never kind of put a pressure कि आपको कमाना है या आपको ये काम करना है या ये दर्जा का नौकरी करना है, ऐसे कुछ नहीं. I think they always supported my decision. And I would discuss with my father. He's a very wise man. So, and he always used to raise questions in me. And those questions always allowed me to form my ideas more, I would say, like, in a direction. So I think my family, my parents supported our decisions always unanimously. That was a good thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now coming to the part of architecture. So basically like मेरे जैसा जो कॉमन मैन है तो आर्किटेक्चर मतलब कुछ तो बिल्डिंग का डिजाइन बनाता है और व्हाटएवर फ्लैट वी परचेज उसमें एक आर्किटेक्चर का नाम होता है. इतने दो ही चीजें हमें पता है, लेकिन एक्चुअली एक आर्किटेक्ट का एक रियल इस्टेट सेक्टर में या ऑन अ लार्जर बेसिस एक कंट्री लेवल पे या इकोनॉमी में एक आर्किटेक्चर का रोल क्या होता है, एग्जैक्टली करता क्या है और उसका इम्पोर्टेंस क्या है?
इसका जो आंसर जो होगा वो उतना सरल नहीं है, क्योंकि आपने तो एक प्रोफेशन का मूल आधार पूछा है. सभी लोग सोचते हैं कि architecture is only for the rich people. In fact, it is also the way it is. We always believe that like people hire architects or they go for good architecture when they have a lot of money. And architects also believe that their service is essentially for the upper classes of the society. That is wrong, actually. I think architecture is a social tool.
Okay.
Yeah. When I say social tool, architecture is a subject or a profession which gives shape and vision to our cities, how our cities would look, how our streets look. Because these cities are made out of human beings and human societies have people from all sections of the society and not just the rich section of the society. Yes. So the architect is one person who has to balance between a person from a labor who's working on the site, who's barely earning like 300 rupees per day. Correct. But also a client who's spending 300 crores on the same project. So he's connecting this whole spectrum of human beings as a labor, as a contractor, as a material supplier, and as a client. So I always say that it is a difficult profession because you need to kind of be comfortable to address issues to a person who is a uneducated labor on the site, and also to kind of give the confidence to the client who's investing 300 crores and you are the sole decision maker to give a shape and size to that money in the form of building. Correct. And the larger aspect of this whole thing is that, as I was telling you earlier, is that whichever building you do, it stays for 50 years, 60 years, even 100 years, sometimes centuries. Correct. So it's adding up to the civilization. So that's why the profession of architecture may not be a noble profession like medicine, but it is a socially responsible profession. So it can't be taken as like a profession that you take it because you make money, but you also have a responsibility towards your community, your society, your city, and the larger civilization which is in making of the history. So you're very, very much an important part of the history making of a place. So that's why I say that like architecture is a social tool. It helps in the transformation.
Correct.
And it builds the image of our society or the.
So आपने जो अभी बताया ऑन अ मैक्रो पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखेंगे तो आर्किटेक्चर का जो रोल है वो
It's a social tool. Yes.
Absolutely. And it is important because it will have a long lasting.
That's why everybody should know what is architecture. In fact, मैं तो ये बोलता हूँ कि स्कूल के पढ़ाई में ही होना चाहिए.
Correct.
जैसे आपने बायोलॉजी पढ़ाया उसी तरीके से आपको एस्थेटिक्स करके एक सब्जेक्ट इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहिए प्राइमरी स्कूल लेवल में. एस्थेटिक्स होता क्या है, जैसे ये यहाँ पे आपने क्यों रखा, इसका महत्व क्या है यहाँ पे. What is, why should it be? You could have put a big tree also.
Yes.
Scale, proportion, color, beauty, and arrangement of all these things should be taught from our childhood itself. And if you start teaching, then look at the way our houses would be. They would be more beautiful. Our streets would be more cleaner and beautiful because we'll learn the idea of art. We'll learn the idea of design. We'll learn the idea of aesthetics. Aesthetics is something which everybody should have it.
Correct.
It's a beauty. Yes. Beauty of seeing everything. Yeah.
आपने जो बताया वो I think it is very important. But just for the sake of our audience and to get it more clear, आप एक कुछ ऐसा केस स्टडी बता सकते हैं कि ये बिल्डिंग का हमने डिजाइन किया और आपने जो बताया, ऑफ कोर्स वो तो आपका फिलॉसफी है, वो तो हर प्रोजेक्ट में आता ही है, लेकिन विद द हेल्प ऑफ वन केस स्टडी हमने ये सब 360 डिग्री सोच के वो डिजाइन किया और क्या उसमें अलग है. अगर कोई नॉर्मल आदमी जो ये सब चीजें नहीं सोच रहा है वो करता वर्सेस आपने किया, तो व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस?
ओके, जैसे आपने पहले मेरा इंट्रोडक्शन जब दिया था, आपने बोला था गर्ल्स हॉस्टल बिल्डिंग इन कॉलेज ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग पुणे.
यस.
ओके, नाउ वहाँ पे अगर आपने देखा तो उस बिल्डिंग में हमने एक ही चीज बदलाव किया बाकी के हॉस्टल बिल्डिंग से.
Okay.
आपको अगर याद होगा तो सबसे जो अगली इमेज ऑफ अ हॉस्टल क्या रहता है, कपड़े सुखाना बालकनीज में. यस, हर हॉस्टल में हम लोग कपड़े ही कपड़े देखते हैं, स्टूडेंट्स जो सुखाते हैं. So the only one thing that we have introduced in College of Engineering Girls Hostel building is that we created a jali on the toilets.
Okay.
Because of that, जब बाहर से हम लोग देख रहे हैं, हम किसी के अंडरगारमेंट्स नहीं देख रहे हैं, हम लोग बिल्डिंग को देख रहे हैं. सी बिल्डिंग ऐसा नहीं दिखना चाहिए जस्ट बिकॉज इट्स अ हॉस्टल, एक धोबी का घाट, राइट, वन लिटिल थिंग. सो उससे क्या है कि बिल्डिंग का जो पवित्रता बढ़ता है, उसका सुंदरता बढ़ता है, and it looks more beautiful. And जब it looks more beautiful, more people will see. When more people see it, they get more inspired, and more buildings of such quality will come. So architecture is not just only about aesthetics, it's also about giving solutions to very mundane problems of a daily life of a human being.
Correct.
If a balcony is made, what are you making this balcony for? So that you get like some fresh air, you get sunlight, you should be able to sit there, sip a cup of tea in the evening, feel the rain, feel the sun.
Correct.
That is your private space in the air. Correct. Right? You have a portion of sky and the earth and the surroundings, which is your private space. Right?
Correct.
You're getting it?
Yes.
So make the balcony beautiful. Don't give it just as a cosmetic addition. Give it so that like दो लोग आपके जैसे मेरे जैसे बैठ के वहाँ पे कुछ चर्चा कर सकते हैं.
Correct. बहुत छोटी छोटी चीजें है लेकिन
राइट. सो ये सब आप लोधा बेलमोंडो में भी देख सकते हैं. लोधा बेलमोंडो देखिए एक बहुत ही मुश्किल प्रोजेक्ट है. जिसके बीचों बीच एक एक्सप्रेसवे जा रहा था. एक तरफ नदी है, उसके सेटबैक्स हैं, और एक तरफ आपका मुंबई पुणे का एक्सप्रेसवे है, उसका साउंड है. कैन यू इमेजिन द साउंड क्रिएटेड फ्रॉम द रोरिंग ऑफ व्हीकल्स पासिंग ऑन द एक्सप्रेसवे 24/7. right? So we had to think about like how do we tilt the buildings so that like the sound doesn't come in. आप लोधा बेलमोंडो में जाइए, आपको ऐसे लगता ही नहीं कि बगल में एक्सप्रेसवे है. उसी तरीके से जब हम लोगों ने नदी को देखा, so we didn't feel that the river was a kind of a barrier for us. In fact, we brought the river into the project.
Okay. It was an asset.
It was an asset. What was like a problem, we made it that it becomes part of the project. So now in Lodha Belmondo, you have a almost like 70-acre garden, golf course, riverfront, and there is a 2.5 kilometers running track or walking track. So it became an asset.
Correct.
So if I look at compared to other architects, we saw the problem not as a problem. We saw the problem as an asset.
Correct.
Right? And that is what is, I would say, the USP of CCBA is. एक अलग नजरिया से देखो आप. Yeah, see it from a different angle and make your problems as assets. And then you look at the project as in totality, that like how you can give homes and not flats or houses, because you have 3,000 people living there.
Correct.
And maybe more, I don't know, 3,000 flats, I'm sorry. And each flat, if it has like 2 or 3 or 4 people, so you're looking at a community of almost 10,000 people.
Correct.
If 10,000 people are living in high-rise buildings with very little footprint, connected to nature in the form of river and gardens, and yet being connected to the easy communication or easy way of travel through the expressway. All these things, if you put it together, I think it's a very successful project. That's something which I think I'm very proud of. Yeah.
Coming to the business part, like for example, I'm planning to hire an architect.
Right.
So I have a number of options.
Yeah.
One of the option is your company. So if you have to convince me, now that you have so many projects, so you have a portfolio, but in your initial days you didn't have a portfolio, or even right now you may be facing some challenges to convince the people. So if I ask you one question, what is one differentiating factor about you against your competitors? So what will be your answer?
Differentiating factor, it's a very tough question. I don't want to offend my competitors also, because it's our competitors who make us better every year. Because of the challenges that they are doing better, we also improve, right? If I say the differentiating factor is that we don't see architecture as only a financially lucrative profession.
Okay.
I think our beginnings are different. We don't start seeing it like what is the profit that we make.
Okay.
We look at it like what is the client coming with, and can we first educate our client? Can he be part of our team?
Correct.
Can we include him as not somebody who's come with a problem, but as a person who is like part of the problem solving with us? You're getting it? At the end, it's a client's aspiration.
Correct.
Right? It is his money, his project, his land. He's coming with an aspiration. Like a good doctor, we should be a listener.
Correct.
Understand the patient's problems, and then we have to give the prescription. But when we are prescribing in architecture, we are not prescribing like this is the only thing. We listen. We say like, okay, let's think about how do we come out of this problem in a partnership. And we work with our clients hand in glove. And that is one of the important aspects of CCBA Designs, that we don't just prescribe. We in fact make it as a partnership. We try to find a design solution together. And when you do it together, we have our knowledge of 30 years and projects, and we also have the knowledge of the client who is coming with certain knowledge.
Yes.
Right? So when two knowledge systems come together, then the outcome is always more beautiful.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that like we don't fight. There are sometimes my client comes with like ridiculous ideas, but then we are able to tell them like this will work or this doesn't work. Sometimes they come out with absolutely fantastic ideas that we incorporate.
Correct.
See, in the end, it is not the game between the client and architect or a buyer and a seller. It's really about like together are we creating something which is beautiful, which is monumental, and which is everlasting, and can it be timeless?
Correct.
Can our next generation be proud of it when they look at it? And can some other architects learn from it? So there are so many takeaways.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you said that you don't, of course, money is the important part of any business, but as you said that it is not the first criteria.
No.
So there might be some examples where actually you didn't earn from a project.
Yeah.
You actually lost. Is there any some
kind
of example?
There, I won't name any particular example, but I always say that like an architect's profession goes through a principle which is called the famine and the feast.
Okay.
Sometimes we get a lot of money and sometimes we don't get any money. So that is what is called as the famine and the feast principle. There are some projects which are very, very paying, and then there are certain projects which don't pay monetarily, but then they pay in other ways.
Correct.
You see, in any kind of design profession, you have to see certain projects are meant to give you that experimental quality. You get it? Even filmmakers, उनके बॉक्स ऑफिस में हिट नहीं होते, बट दे आर आर्टिस्टिक, दे काइंड ऑफ educate us on certain other parameters of what is called the craft of filmmaking. Do you understand what I'm saying? And some films make box office hits, so it evens out. So उसी तरीके से हमारे प्रोजेक्ट्स में काफ़ी सारे जो हैं अननोन टेरिटरीज में चले जाते हैं, जो प्रोजेक्ट 3 साल में ख़त्म होने वाला 10 साल लगता है. So for example, अजीम प्रेमजी यूनिवर्सिटी जिसके बारे में आप बोल रहे थे, now this is almost like I would say like the 15th year, and we were supposed to finish in 5 years. So you can imagine everybody has lost money in that. But since it's a university and there are so many unknown factors, it was new for Mr. Premji also and his team, because they were in IT, they're not into education. Yes. And we were also working for the first time in Bangalore. There were so many issues of land. So there were so many challenges. But at the end of this, I would say like after 15 years, I think this is Ajim Premji University is probably one of the finest universities because of its great architecture. There is no university which I can pinpointedly think about that either this country or abroad that I have seen as beautiful as Ajim Premji University it is. Okay. Yeah. And all of that was built in one shot. Usually universities एक डिपार्टमेंट बिल्डिंग बनेगा, फिर दूसरा कभी बनेगा, फिर 10 साल के बाद कोई और आर्किटेक्ट. So it's all like, you know, piecemeal. But this is all made in one shot. So it really looks very beautiful as the IIM Ahmedabad is, which was designed by great master architect Louis Khan, which stood as an example of what is considered as like a great institutional architecture building. Now I would say like Ajim Premji University will definitely challenge that notion, and it would be talked about as one of the greatest institutional project in the country. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. And I think so far what we have discussed, this is the biggest and most insightful thing what you have said. It is not only about money.
No.
Sometimes it is about the experience.
Yes.
And the goodwill that the project
yes,
creates.
Absolutely.
So that,
and more than that, the satisfaction that we have been able to part of the growth of this university or growth of any project. I think the satisfaction is much greater than the balance sheets.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The differentiating factor we talked about, then your core philosophy you have told us. But ultimately, business तो business होता है.
Correct.
So, product कितना भी अच्छा रहे, service कितनी भी अच्छी रहे, you have to sell it. और आपने जो प्रोजेक्ट्स किए हैं, मतलब कोई आर्किटेक्ट सोच नहीं सकता कि पूरे लाइफ टाइम में मैं ये सब कर पाऊँ।
करेक्ट।
तो माय क्वेश्चन इज कि इतने बड़े जो प्रोजेक्ट्स होते हैं, ऑब्वियसली वो जो काम देने वाले लोग हैं वो भी स्टॉलवर्ड्स ही है उनके उनके
राइट।
फील्ड में। तो ये लोगों तक आप पहुंचते कैसे हैं? हाउ डू यू गेट देम ऑन बोर्ड एज योर क्लाइंट्स?
सी
कुछ
दे
तो सीक्रेट होगा।
नहीं नहीं, देर इज नो सीक्रेट रेसिपी फॉर दिस। क्वाइट ऑनेस्टली, आई थिंक हमारा पहला प्रोजेक्ट जो था हमको सिर्फ लक के वजह से मिला था। आवर फर्स्ट प्रोजेक्ट वाज महिंद्रा यूनाइटेड वर्ल्ड कॉलेज ऑफ इंडिया, मुल्शी में जो था। 1995 में हम लोग ने we worked on it. That belonged to the Mahindra family, the Mahindra Jeeps, you know. And I think they just like wrote an email or उस टाइम में तो email नहीं था, letter, and they were looking for an architect in Pune. And since Christopher already built CDSA, so they were looking at an architect, and हमको भी एक letter आया, we worked on it, and then फिर एक वो प्रोजेक्ट को अवार्ड मिला, वो पब्लिश हुआ, उसके अवार्ड्स और पब्लिकेशंस के वजह से बाकी के लोग मिले। फिर काफ़ी सारे कॉम्पिटिशन्स में हम लोग को इनवाइट किया गया, नेशनल लेवल कॉम्पिटिशन्स में, जैसे IIM कैलकाटा एक नेशनल लेवल कॉम्पिटिशन था, दैट वी वन। So one thing led to the other, but essentially I would say like CCBA doesn't get its projects either from website or from marketing. We don't have any marketing team, nor we have any advertisement. I would say like probably this interview would be a kind of I would say like, you know, a word that would go to the external world. But generally we don't have any sort of tools that would get us projects. Are good projects, good designs, which people read or hear, and they get to know about us through their friends who have been our clients, or people who live in these projects, who use these projects. So most of the time I would say like it's through people that we get our next project. We had no connection with Mr. Ajim Premji. He was in IT. He heard about our work. He came and visited us in India House in Pune. And then he said like, I want to have you design as our university. And it was as simple as that. Now, where and how he has come to know us, we have no idea. But it was not through some marketing person or some agency or some sort of advertisement. It was through good work. I think your good work speaks a lot in the long run.
I think I have read it somewhere ki the effort that we have to put in marketing is inversely proportional to the quality of the product. So वो जितना अच्छा रहेगा उतना marketing कम करना पड़ेगा.
I always believe that, like, you know, you rarely hear about Mercedes-Benz ever doing any kind of advertisement, right? I mean, so I think your work and your product should always speak about your caliber. I think if your product is good, it will sell on its own.
Still, that part is definitely true what you have said. Because of the earlier projects, you are getting new projects. But as a businessman, we have to be in the market. We have to keep on networking, meeting people. So for this purpose, ऐसा कुछ है, आपने कुछ बनाया है कि नेटवर्किंग के लिए कुछ एक्टिविटीज आप करते हैं, ऐसा कुछ है मतलब
वैसे
for the sake of business growth?
No, nothing of that sort. I would say like, if you ask me, networking just for the sake of educating your viewers, the only networking is that like many times I go to events and to lectures and give an idea of what is our work. But that is more at a student's level and maybe to other fellow architects, but not to just aam janta ya जनरल पब्लिक के लिए तो कुछ होता नहीं है वैसे इवेंट्स. वी शेयर आवर वर्क ऑन प्लेटफॉर्म्स ऑफ इंस्टाग्राम एंड दिस एंड दैट नाउ बिकॉज everybody is on digital platforms. But generally I would say like I think giving lectures and project presentations allows us to reach to the people, and that's the only networking that we have. Otherwise actively I don't have any marketing persons or an MBA graduate who's running the business. We don't even have a business development cell or anything. As I told, like we are a very small company. We are altogether about 58 people, out of which 35 are architects. And we have kept the office, I'm sorry, I don't use the word office, I call it a studio, because we always say that like if we are a studio, we are able to control the quality of design. Studio is something like a lab, like a scientific lab. In artistic fields like design, film, or art, we use the word studio, which is equivalent to a lab. अब लैब में आप देखिए, आप एक्सपेरिमेंट फेल भी हो सकता है, सक्सेसफुल भी हो सकता है, बट इट इज नॉट, देयर इज नो टाइम, there is no like timelines, or there is no like financial what I would say like constraints. So you're doing it to find the solution. So that's why we call ourselves a studio, and we are continuously inventing how can we create great spaces for human I would say happiness. I think that is what is our forte.
Correct. I was going through your portfolio, and what I noticed was I can call you a specialist of educational जो institutions है, उसके आपको specialist में आपको बोल सकता हूँ.
Okay.
So एक normal real estate project, maybe residential, commercial, उसके comparison में एक educational institution का कुछ डिजाइन करते हैं, तो अप्रोच में कुछ तो फर्क होगा. करेक्ट. क्या है वो फर्क?
देखिए, कोई भी एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट जो हम लोग ने डिजाइन किया है is designed around the only one factor. A student comes, spends probably the most precious years of his life, because इसी दौरान उसका माइंड में फॉर्मेटिव आइडियाज होता है. ही इज नॉट कमिंग इनटू अ बिल्डिंग, रीडिंग एंड गेटिंग आउट, टेकिंग ए डिग्री. ये जो 3 या 4 या 5 6 साल जो एक इंस्टीट्यूट या यूनिवर्सिटी या एक एजुकेशनल एकेडमी में he spends his most formative years, the architecture has to be of such quality that it has to play a great role in that. Good architecture will transform him, will make him a better person when he walks out, compared to an institution where there is no good architecture. Educational institutions impart education, and good architecture must support this idea of what is called good education. Educational institutions that we design, we make it a point that there is a harmony of buildings. The buildings must be timeless. The buildings must be both indoors and outdoors, because teaching and learning doesn't just happen in 4 walls. It should be in amphibious spaces, जहाँ पे आप एक स्टडी जो होता है क्लासरूम में भी हो सकता है, वरांडा में भी हो सकता है, कोर्टयार्ड में भी हो सकता है. इनफैक्ट सबसे बेस्ट आइडियाज जो होता है एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस में कॉरिडोर्स में आता है, क्योंकि आप वहाँ पे आप खुल के बात कर रहे हैं. आप आपके स्टूडेंट्स, दूसरे स्टूडेंट्स के साथ यू आर जस्ट लाइक प्लेइंग विद द आइडियाज, टॉइंग विद न्यू आइडियाज, ridiculous ideas. But who knows, out of those ridiculous ideas, a $1 billion company can become.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why educational institutions must be designed very differently. They cannot be boxed. They have to be free. They should be free flowing. There should be an interplay of nature, amphibious spaces, verandas, courtyards, closed spaces, large spaces, small spaces, everything. A student must feel that like he can move around like air in his own institution. you know.
Yes. Nowadays, whenever we are purchasing a home or we are building it, Vastu Shastra has become a very important uh, factor
Right.
in all the decision making process. So, as an architect or as an architecture firm, do you also consider this aspect of Vastu?
Yes and no.
Okay. Why yes and why no?
Okay. First of all, let's understand the gimmick of Vastu Shastra. Or the, let's say, the misinformation about Vastu Shastra. Vastu Shastra, by its own nature, it's a very good Shastra. It talks about the integration of light, spaces, air, the Panchabhuta, everything together. Because it is part and parcel of life. You can't separate air, you can't separate water, you can't separate like greenery. You need to integrate all of this. So now when you say light, back in the past, where would the light come from? The only source was sun. That's why they used to face it towards the east, so that, like, the sunlights enter, and then that is how you understand that, like, now it's a day.
Correct.
Or a morning, right? Now we don't live in those kind of constraints. Now there is artificial light. It is nothing but like foolishness to think, like, unless if my door faces to east, that, like, I'm going to be not successful. You are either successful or not successful because of your own inputs, not because of sunlight or the wind direction. But yes, India is a beautiful country, and the Indian climate is also absolutely one of the most beautiful climates. In fact, that's why the civilization here thrived, because of its great earth and great climate. So when we have such great earth and great climate, we should bring in good light, we should bring in good wind, and why not? So if I can employ Vastu Shastra and bring in good light and good wind where it is possible, I should do that. But where it is not possible, when the direction of your door cannot be possible in a tall building which is 50 stories tall towards the east, why should I do that? It makes no sense. Also remember, if you are in Mumbai and if you are in a 50-story tower, all the flats on this side will face the same direction.
Yes.
But will all the people have the same money?
No.
Will all the people have same success, same happiness, or same sadness? It's not possible. How? If they all had the same Vastu, then everybody should have the same kind of results, no?
Correct.
So one has to also understand Vastu Shastra is a scientific thing. It is not a phobia generated the way, अरे मैंने ये घर लिया तो मैं कंगाल हो जाऊंगा. No, that is a phobia generated thing. I think we need to remove the phobia part from the Vastu and take the good parts of it.
Yes.
The good part is how the wind should travel into your living room, bedroom, so that you have fresh air. How the morning sunlight should come wherever it is possible. Because we make our food very spicy, there is a flow of tadka, this and that. So maybe you should have your kitchens in such locations where it is easy to air out, right?
Correct.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I think one has to understand, like, Vastu very nicely and employ where it is possible. But Vastu is not linked to your success, for sure.
Correct. So if it is possible, then make a Vastu compliant home. And if it is not, then टेंशन लेने का कुछ ये
कोई जरूरत नहीं. और ऐसे नहीं है कि वास्तु में अगर 10 पॉइंट्स लिखे हैं तो सभी के सभी फॉलो करना.
It is not possible, at least in the current.
And फिर then you have this whole gimmick of वास्तु correction. You put a bamboo tree in the corner, then you put some पानी कहीं पे मटके में. ऐसे this is not like, I think, understand the deeper meaning of vastu.
Correct.
Not the superficial meaning which leads to phobia.
उसके पीछे का साइंस अगर हम लोग देखेंगे तो then we can actual में कुछ solution.
Yes. And in CCBA Designs, we have always made it a point that, like, wherever it is possible, we employ Vastu Shastra's principles wherever it is possible. We do that, and we do it in a very aesthetically pleasant manner, because that is the whole idea. Vastu is a guidance for your aesthetic beauty.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now coming to the real estate, you are the person who has seen real estate market in 1990s.
Yes.
And you are currently in the market. So what has changed in these 35 years?
Oh, so much has changed. I mean, I remember what Pune was when it was 3 million people, and today when you have like 8 million people, and everything is now 30 stories towers. You have high rises. Our cities are becoming bigger, are getting denser, and their boundaries are expanding. So urbanization is inevitable. Everybody will come to the cities. Pune is a very attractive city because it has three economic generators. When I say economic generators, means these are the ones that generate income and employment. Education is one, IT is another, and automobile and heavy industry is another. So Pune is a very attractive city for anybody to come from anywhere in the world, not just in India. So, and you can see Pune as it is, Pune. It has gone from like what used to be like very subtle 4-story buildings in the 70s and 80s to in the 90s it became like 7 stories and 10 stories, and then in 2000 it became like 12 and 15, and now it's everything is 30 stories plus. So more people are coming, we need to house more people, so obviously there will be high rise, high densities, but this also leads to something which is called as pockets of overcrowdedness, and these will cause essentially what is called like traffic jams, because you have densities which are very different. It's not like there is an equal distribution of densities across the city. There are pockets which have very high density, and then there are pockets where there is extremely low densities. So when these high densities and low densities are connected by a road, and the road which is closer to the high density is always going to have like traffic jams. Correct. And that's why density distribution is very, very important. And I could see that like our government is doing a lot of redevelopment, so that's why you can see in Deccan and all that area they are tearing down buildings and building. It's a good way to distribute densities, otherwise all the densities will be more in the periphery or maybe in the center at some cases. I think Pune will transform, but I have great hopes for this great city, Punya Nagari, because I think we have metro systems coming up, which is a very nice thing. We ourselves are building 23 metro stations of Pune Metro Line 3, which is from Hinjewadi to the civil courts. So we are very excited about our metro stations. This was the first time we have done metro stations. They wanted beautiful stations, so we were partnering with the Tata Group in that. And I think cities in India are going to transform, and I'm looking forward to it, because I think India, if it wants to be a developed nation, it should become urbanized. I think we should build more cities, we should have more development, more infrastructure development, and our cities should be like beautiful. And in that, I would say like architecture will play a very great role. In fact, only architecture can save our cities.
As an expert in architecture, can you provide a solution to like whatever we are facing is the most common problem is traffic jam, especially in cities like Pune, Mumbai, and Bangalore.
Right.
So, what can be the solution for this?
You see, now an architect plays a role like a doctor in a hospital. So, an architect can't really solve the problems of a traffic, because it's a city level government's issues. Just like a single doctor can't solve the problem of, let's say, a healthcare system of the country, right? But architecture, I'm trying to understand how do I answer this question. Like solving the problem of traffic is uh, only possible if you have like some very strong, I think, policies, like the way they did in Singapore. Like Singapore has decided that it has certain kilometers of road, and there can only be that many number of cars.
Okay.
Yeah. So if a person has to buy a car has to be like dumped, then only a lottery ticket will come, and then that lottery ticket somebody will get, and then he can buy the car. But what Singapore has done is that like it invented a beautiful public transport system, both underground in the way of subways, and overground in the form of buses and taxis. So everybody in Singapore uses public transport. So if we have to look at Pune, if Pune can create like 7 to 10 lines of metro systems and feeder bus systems,
Okay.
to all these metro stations, and I would say small buses which kind of feed at a very fast frequency, I think we can solve the traffic problem. The problem with Pune is that we don't have any public transport.
Correct.
And that is why everybody has to depend on a private vehicle, be it a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. You understand? So we are a very different city in that way. But I would say like 10 years from now, I think Pune will solve its problem of traffic, and we won't have that much of traffic, because building more and more highways and more not highways, sorry, flyovers is not going to solve this problem.
Okay.
It's not going to solve this problem. Metro system will solve the problem, and I would say feeder buses will solve the problem.
So we are going in the right direction.
We are very much in the right direction,
Yeah.
but we are probably at least 10 years behind. We could have done this like 10 years before, but I always say like probably in India, because we are a very large democracy with all the voices to be taken into account, things do get delayed, but we are on the right track. At least I hope that in my lifetime I will see a beautiful city.
Yes. Few years back, when the Narendra Modi government came into power, we heard concept of smart city. So the government is willing to make our cities smart. As a responsible player in the real estate, or as a part of leading architecture firm, as a part of your profession, and the work what you are doing is you have to do, but what can you contribute to this vision of smart city by जो आप काम कर रहे हो वही करके, ये जो स्मार्ट सिटी का विजन है उसमें आप क्या contribute कर सकते हो?
See, the ideas of smart city are very good, but today when I look at like Pune, I feel that like where is the smartness in our city? You know, we can't even have like a normal routine functions a city should offer for the taxes that we pay being performed. There is garbage everywhere. I'm sure you must have noticed it.
Yes.
Yeah, which I'm telling you, in earlier Pune I never used to see this. I see like now that we are using like very catchy terms as marketing tools, like smart city, this city, that city, but where are the services? I think to run smart cities you also should have smart people, right? Am I correct? It can't just like run on its own. We don't have any robots.
Correct.
So first I would say like, you know, like to have the principles of smart city implemented, I think we need to create a pool of people who are smarter, who have an understanding of how cities run. This is where I would say like architects will play a big role. Now the question is that like in the smart city movement, how many architects have been employed? How many urban designers, urban planners, infrastructure managers have been employed is very important. It can't be just like people who have been in the administrative services or managerial services or the government employees to run the smart city principles. You need to have professionals, because cities are now not just a place, it is an identity. City is an identity. So you need to have professionally run, I would say like, you know, teams to make your city smarter. It's not just the tag. smart cities, but you should also have very smart people to run it.
Correct.
And architects, urban designers, urban planners, everybody should go there. I think this is where the job creation should happen. I think people who are in the field of architects, they probably don't feel that they want to work in the government setup, but this is an opportunity where the government can create to invite architects, urban planners, urban designers, infrastructure managers to come and join them and run the city like a professional system. Do you understand?
Correct.
Yeah, like how a company is run.
Yeah.
Right.
So smart city is possible
If we have smart people.
ecosystem,
Yeah.
which has smart people in it.
Correct.
And right now, in the last 2-3 years, across the industries, the one common word which we are hearing is artificial intelligence. So is AI having an impact on your industry? And is it a threat or is it an opportunity?
I would say, like, until now, I think AI has not been a threat, because AI is not yet utilized that much in design field. So I would say it's not a threat, but who knows what's it holding up as a power. It is a disruptive technology, as I understand. AI should be welcomed, but I always say, like, to have artificial intelligence run, you also should be intelligent. You understand, as a human being. So that means you need to be much more educated and much more aware to run the artificial intelligence. So I think AI, I see it as a boon. In fact, this is where I think a good AI tool, a good design tool can marry together to give an outcome which is probably a better version than what we used to see earlier. I'll give us very small example. There's always this, like, when we are doing the services, we are always at a loggerheads to understand where the pipeline is going and where the electrical lines are going. I would say, like, if an AI tool comes which kind of allows us to kind of find solutions, because these are all very mundane one, but these are the problems which are created in the building.
Correct.
You understand? And in the same way, I think if AI can be utilized in a positive manner in assisting design, especially, why do we need to calculate how much is the FSI, right? If all these things are fed, and then the AI can give it, AI tools can give an idea of, like, what is the FSI, how do we calculate it, how do we distribute it, like what is doable, what is not doable. All these mundane, very long arithmetic challenges can be handled with AI, and probably what we can then focus on is giving a direction to the shape and size and the aesthetics of the building, which is much better. It's like an AI tool for a doctor. He shouldn't be looking at, like, the test results. The AI should be able to tell, like, like, because of these results you have these options. I'm just thinking loud. I mean, quite honestly, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on this, but I think I'll welcome AI.
Life will get easier.
It's
And
not
the
about
design aspect-
it's not about easy. It will remove us from mundane tasks,
Yeah.
and it will allow us to have that little bit more freer time to focus on more important tasks.
Correct. I am a 18-year-old kid sitting in front of you. I have completed my 12th recently.
Okay.
I have 3-4 options in front of me. The first two are obviously engineering and medical. Maybe third, fourth can be architecture.
Okay.
Now you have to convince me why I should avoid all other options and choose architecture. What are the prospects in this field?
Okay.
I have to work for next 30-35 years in this field.
See, if I look at the way India is growing, understand, we still do not have one world-class city. I mean, there is not one singular world-class city. I could say Delhi is probably closer to a world-class city. So that means, like, we will be building not 10 world-class cities. We are talking about hundreds of world-class cities and hundreds of tier 2 cities, maybe thousands of tier 3 cities. Now, to build all this, we need intelligent, professional architects. So India is at the cusp where we have just, I would say, like, stopped looking at the roti, kapda, makan, the basic needs. Now we are in the next level.
Correct.
We in fact also looked at like the next level of the education and healthcare. Now we are really looking at like much higher goals for ourselves. We are not really a poor country. We are perceived as a poor country, but we are actually with a GDP with almost like closer to 5 trillion in the next 2 years. I think we are a rich country, and we will become like a bigger economy, and for this there will be growth, and all this growth will essentially come from urban centers.
Okay.
And urban centers would be building. You create cities only because of buildings. More and more buildings will be made. So that's why I always say, like, if you have two things in you, before 18 you should understand, are you a person who has design sense? And what is design? Solving a problem very creatively. That is what is called design.
Correct.
And if you add aesthetics to that, that becomes architecture.
Super.
Creativity is creativity, problem solving, and giving beauty to it in the form of aesthetics. This is all architecture. If you feel that like in your brain cells you have space for these three things, you should go for architecture. And I don't think that you should be worried about whether this profession will survive or not survive. It will survive. And I always say that like you give 10 years of your life to anything, you will be successful. There is no shortcut. This is not stock market. Hard work, it will pay you back.
And it will pay in the later stage of your career.
And very rarely you come across a poor architect.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, at least I don't know anybody. And I feel that like most architects do pretty well, but it takes time because it's a very large profession. It takes time. And by the end of your career, you would be pretty well off compared to your contemporaries or your batchmates from other professions.
You are running a reputed company. You have created several good buildings. What next? What is your vision for next 10, 20, 30 years?
Okay.
And what is the business plan? What is the vision? What you want to accomplish now?
I feel if I look at like this is the interval part of our journey, 30 years and then the next 30 years. Of course, I'm now 53. So I see like after 30 years, I probably will work for a few more years or maybe a decade if my health is good, and maybe further. There is no age for our retirement as such. But I see that in the last 30 years, we have made a phenomenal contribution in architecture, in the field of architecture in India. We have worked from rural projects to high-rise buildings. We have worked from metro rail systems to, even the educational institutions, high-rise and residential and small bungalows, to all the kind of work. What I see is that like this is a 30 years of knowledge that we have created. And many architectural firms, many students have benefited from this creation of knowledge system. In a very small manner, we have been able to make an impression on them. Okay. Now, I don't see myself as somebody who's like limiting ourselves to just Pune or Maharashtra or Western India or India. I see myself as a global citizen, and I see our company as like a contributor of knowledge to the entire world. And I do believe that like if we can take our learnings from India, where our learning started when there was absolute penury, where there was hardly any money or economy in the 1995, with bare minimum budget, building at 1200 rupees a square foot. Even if I look at today also in India, most buildings are between 2 and 3000 rupees a square foot. That's not possible in anywhere in the world. I think when it comes to cost of construction, I think India is a unique market in the sense like our cost of construction still is 2 to 3,000 rupees a square foot, which roughly comes to, I think, what, like $40. The same thing in any other country, anywhere in the world, would be 10 times more. You see, it's very easy to design buildings and build this flamboyant buildings which we see in glossy architectural magazines and design magazines, and we follow them on Instagram and all that, when your budgets are like $100 to $200 a square foot.
Yes.
You understand, but try doing that in like $35 to $40 and then see the difference. When you have very limited resources and there is a budget constraint, when there is a price war, and if we are able to come out of that with a beautiful design, that's a lesson we should like carry to the world, that how you can do something at a much more cheaper price, right, but at a higher quality. You understand?
Yes.
And global south, more so in Africa, I think it is continuously a price war because they don't have the economies that can support very high quality architecture. I look at Africa, whole of Africa with 54 countries. It has the same amount of population as whole of continent of Africa has the same amount of population as India, almost 1.4 billion people. And the land mass is almost 10 times more than India. Yes, and 54 countries. So, and most of their economies are much, much lower. But Africa has to grow. It will grow for the next 20 years. That's why I decided that like our learnings from India, where we have been able to build world-class buildings at a fraction of a cost compared to European and American architects. This is our product that we can kind of export.
Correct.
And export it to places like Africa where there is a real need. That's why we have gone into African countries, and we are already doing 2 projects, one in Tanzania as well as one in Congo, and in we may be getting something in Ethiopia, and there we are carrying the learnings from India from the past 30 years, and we want to give it to them as a system of knowledge so that it helps their growth at a cheaper price.
Correct. So our experience of working in India is our competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
And we should encash.
Yes.
And CCPA is going
to... we are so well prepared for that.
Yeah. Absolutely. The greatest intake or the impact on my decision making process after this podcast is whenever I'm going to purchase my next home or an office, I will not only look at the name of the developer, but I will also look who is an architect.
Correct.
And what is his history, what is his
Yes.
track record, and what has he created in his journey, and then only I will take my decision. So
absolutely, just like you can go to a big hospital, but ultimately who is doing the surgery is the doctor that you want to know about him, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is a good example.
Yes. So that like common man understands this.
Yes. Hospital is important and doctor is
very important. Yes.
Important.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good time chatting with you, knowing the dynamics of this industry, especially the importance of architecture in our personal and professional life. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your valuable insights.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Mangesh, thank you for hosting me. And I understand that Unbeaten Business Stories is a new venture and you are doing a lot of good interviews. Chatting with you before the interview started, I realized that like you are about 3 or 4 very young people, dynamic entrepreneurs venturing into the communication field. And I hope through this interview, if you could like take this little system of knowledge to the larger society, I think you are going to do a great job. And my best wishes to you, and thank you to your entire team.
Yes.
And you have been able to get the best answers from me, I would say. The role of an interview interviewer as against the interviewee. Interviewer and interviewee. Your role was profound. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the last one thing.
Mm.
I am working as an anchor for last 3 years, but
Mm.
I think you too can become a very good anchor. So you should explore this opportunity also.
I will remember
Yeah.
this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So
Thank
much.
you. Namaste.